From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Labour Party and its presidential candidate Peter Obi backs People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar in requesting for live transmission of proceedings of the Presidential Election Tribunal. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives Ahmed Wase and other aggrieved members of the All Progressives Congress reject the party's zoning of speakership of the House to the northwest. President Muhammadu Buhari to spend another week in London following his dentist's advice, while President-elect Bola Tinubu leaves for Europe to fine-tune his transition plans.
On business news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari seeks Senate's approval to borrow $800 million from the World Bank for additional funding of the National Social Safety Net program.
And on sports news tonight, two early goals from Edin Dzeko and Henry Mkhitaryan gives Inter Milan edge over city rivals AC Milan, the first leg of the second Champions League semi-finals at the San Siro.
From the nation's capital, at least 17 persons are dead following a boat mishap in Dandaji village in Shagari local government area of Sokoto State.
And in international news from London, Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has appeared before a judge a day after his arrest on corruption charges sparked nationwide protests across the country.
The Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, are calling for a live broadcast of the proceedings of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Counter to the party and Mr. Obi, Mr. Levi Uzoku made the request at the pre-hearing session on their petitions challenging the election of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Bola Tinubu. Well, during today's proceedings, the Action People's Party also withdrew its petition against the president-elect. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reports.
Lawyers and some members of the public, including the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, are back in court for the continuation of the pre-hearing session of the presidential election petitions. The five-man panel of justices started the day's proceedings with a petition of the Action People's Party, who have applied to withdraw the suit. Chairman of the panel, Justice Haruna Samani, dismissed the suit after the respondents had no objection and subsequently adjourned the session for a few hours.
As a lawyer, I was prepared to take up this matter to the last minute of it. But things change. The brief is not mine. The brief is that of my client. Like one of the pressmen asked me 2 days ago, would you want to withdraw the petition? My answer was no. However, if I have the instructions of my client to do otherwise, I wouldn't say no to that.
When the court reconvened, attention turned to the petition of the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. However, the lead counsel informed the court that all the parties met and agreed to ask for an adjournment to enable them file and exchange necessary legal documents and consolidate on processes filed and those yet to be filed. He told the court that there were many processes and motions yet to be filed, and an adjournment will enable an expeditious hearing and determination of the case. Consequently, Justice Samani granted the request for a week's adjournment, directing the parties to identify the serious issues for determination. However, counsel to Mr. Peter Obi informs journalists that they have filed an application asking for live coverage of court proceedings.
We are asking that the Honorable Court should allow live streaming and broadcasting of the proceedings of the court from day to day whenever the court is sitting. Because it was something introduced by the colonial masters, but they have moved on, and we are still in the ancient age. So we feel that we should depart from that and adopt modernity, because some African countries are now live streaming their proceedings. I don't see why Nigeria shouldn't.
The Action People's Party has toed the line of the Action Alliance, which withdrew its petition before the Presidential Election Court sitting here in Abuja. Now this changes the complexion of the case, as the numbers of petitioners have dropped from 5 to 3, leaving the PDP, the Labour Party, and the APM challenging the election of the President-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
We're staying with politics, but away from the courtroom. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Ahmed Wase, has rejected the zoning of the office of the Speaker of the 10th National Assembly to Mr. Tajuddin Abbas from the Northwest. Mr. Wase, who led other aggrieved members of the House to the national headquarters of the party in Abuja, explained that the zoning of the office of the Speaker to the Northwest without due consultation is against the spirit of fairness and equity. The aggrieved APC members insist that the zoning arrangement must be revisited in the overall interest of the party.
Contestants for the speakership position of the 10th National Assembly from the All Progressives Congress stormed the national headquarters of the party for a crucial meeting with the party's National Working Committee.
And that is where the language...
They are led to the meeting by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the issue on their mind is the zoning arrangement for the seat of the Speaker.
What makes you think that what you have done will stand the test of time? I don't know if it's on political lineage. I think I'm a better person in terms of lineage of Aswaju family because I came in under AC from 2007 until when we had the merger. I've served you as Deputy Leader of the House. I'm now serving you as Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. If you are going to do anything, what makes you think that we're not qualified?
We are not against our leaders. But if we should sit down and say, okay, sit among yourself and pick somebody you know you can work with, it's easy. It's easy. But the person the Speaker is trying to even pick, there are some of our colleagues in the same assembly that even don't know him, sir.
5 of the aspirants were at the meeting, and they want the party to do something about the situation to avoid past experiences.
If not, sir, because of the integrity of the members of the State Working Committee, the real language in our letter is that we are rejecting. We are rejecting what is in circulation. It is unacceptable to us. We are independent bodies, sir. National Assembly cannot be turned to be like a Federal Executive Council where you pick whosoever you want to pick for. It can't be run like that.
If we stuck our neck and lost lives in defense of our party, and when it is time for reward, I believe it is the state that has delivered that should be given the right of first refusal, and not the excuse that was being peddled. That is, Abia State does not have a governor. And so whatever leadership position comes to the Southeast should go to Abia. I think it is demoralizing.
The group documents their petition against the zoning arrangement, which the party's national chairman promises to give some consideration.
I plead with you in good conscience to give us a little time to take a good and better look at your presentation and open our ears and eyes the more.
The National Working Committee of the APC had on Monday officially announced the zoning of the seat of the Speaker to the Northwest, with Mr. Tajuddin Abbas as a consensus candidate.
Meanwhile, the man at the center of the debate is ready to extend the olive branch to those that are opposed to his nomination by the party. Honorable Tajuddin Abbas told journalists that although the decision of the party was based on his competence, he is willing to discuss with his colleagues to arrive at a compromise.
I feel elated, I feel inspired, because I believe if the party is going to use competence as its yardstick, I am the right person to actually be picked. So the fact that they did what I expect them to do, I feel very elated. I feel very satisfied. I assure you, all the candidates, all the contestants, will reach out to them, we will beg them, we will ask them to come on board so that we can work for the good of the institution. By next week, we are going to do our official declaration. So we'll come out with a 16-point agenda. In that agenda, you see all the areas we are going to work on in the 10th Assembly.
Away from the speakership debate, President Muhammadu Buhari will be in London for an additional week at the instruction of his dentist, who has started attending to him. In a statement from his presidential spokesman, Femi Adesina, the specialist requires to see the president in another 5 days for a procedure already commenced. President Buhari had joined other world leaders to attend the coronation of King Charles III on the 6th of May. Meanwhile, the president-elect, Mr. Bola Tinubu, today left Nigeria for Europe on a working visit. A statement from his office says he will use the opportunity of the trip to fine-tune the transition plans and programs, as well as his policy options with some of his key aides without unnecessary pressure and distraction. The statement adds that the president-elect will also engage with investors and other key allies with the goal of marketing investment opportunities in the country and his administration's readiness to enable a business-friendly climate through policies and regulations. Mr. Tinubu hopes to convince them of Nigeria's readiness to do business under his leadership through mutually beneficial partnerships premised on job creation and skill acquisition. It's scheduled to return shortly for preparations towards his official swearing-in as the 16th President of Nigeria on the 29th of May, 2023. And former Governor of Osun State, Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola, has congratulated the current governor, Mr. Ademola Adeleke, over his victory at the Supreme Court on Tuesday. Mr. Oyetola, in a statement he personally signed, said although the verdict of the Apex Court was against the wishes of his party's members and supporters, he accepted it in the interests of peace and development of the state. The former governor urged members of his party and the All Progressives Congress, his supporters and those who voted him during the July 16, 2022 governorship election to accept the judgment as the will of God and move on. The statement reads in part, "We strongly believe we presented a good case before the Supreme Court, but the court thought otherwise and has given its verdict. While the outcome is against our wish and that of our party members and supporters, we are all bound to accept it as law-abiding citizens." Mr. Oyetola, who asked the APC members and supporters not to feel sad and depressed over the decision of the court, encouraged them to brace up for the tasks ahead of the party. He also appreciated the leadership of the party in the state and at the national level for their commitment and support throughout the period of the legal tussle. And through the Federal Executive Council meeting, the federal government has given assurance that ongoing projects will not be jettisoned by the incoming administration as it scores itself a pass mark. The Minister of Water Resources, Mr. Suleiman Adamu, stated this after the council meeting chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, which lasted for over 7 hours. He explained that even though a lot of contracts will not see the light of day, the council will continue to ratify various contracts running into billions of naira because they have sworn to work to serve Nigerians until the last day.
Ministers converge on the council chamber, not oblivious of the restricted time they've got to straighten grey areas in their ministries. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, proceeds to chair the council meeting on behalf of the President.
It's less than 3 weeks before the current administration wraps up, and unsurprisingly, the Federal Executive Council meeting was laden with about 37 agenda items to mull over using a time frame of over 7 hours, the longest we've experienced in years.
A total of 327 billion naira approvals are granted.
The FEC approved 449.9 million for the engagement of consultants for the development of airport master plan for 17 airports in Nigeria.
The senior special assistant to the president equally announced that the council approved 2 major contracts totaling 129.8 billion naira for the Ogoni land project in fulfillment of the president's promise.
Approval was also given for the award for the contract for the remediation of newly identified hydrocarbon impacted sites along the shoreline of Ogoni land. And this is for about 107 billion naira. It's a big one indeed.
Although the federal government is confident that the projects will not suffer abandonment by the incoming government, it explains the seeming rush to grant approvals days before the handover date.
These things, we do not control the process, but when it's completed and we're still in office, we are duty-bound to bring these memos to council for council to approve. Government is a continuum. There are still a lot of memos, I can assure you, a lot of contracts that will not see the light of day in the next 1 week. We have continued since 2015 to implement projects, and we are confident that the incoming administration will do the same.
Again, 91 billion naira contract is approved by the council for the FCT for the full-scope development of the Shehu Shagari Way. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, Federal High Court in Abuja bars National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, from imposing fines on broadcast stations. That's in a moment. Join us again.
To make it here, you're going to need a different type of energy. That gang energy that starts from your chest. That push power saying, I ain't done yet. Big E for energy the world hasn't met yet. Why wait? Dominate. Go win bet. Even when the power's out, still knocking their lights out. Living with no how-tos, we got to make dues. We're gonna move. High key hits different, no cap energy. Take charge, recharge, live large energy. No wahala. That's it. That's our kind of energy. Zag Energy Plus Malt. That's our kind of energy.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Savlon Antiseptic Liquid kills over 99.9% of germs on your skin, leaving you free to live more. And it's formulated by Johnson & Johnson to keep you and your family protected. Savlon, love the feeling.
Let's go, Mitchell in 5 minutes.
You're always so active.
And the club, please? It's so delicious. And it's free.
Yes, buy one Fresh Yo and get 1
delicious Pure Bliss biscuits free.
For an exclusive 3x skin effect, try Nivea Men Deep powered by Black Carbon. For 48-hour deep moisture, a fresh skin feel, and a long-lasting masculine fragrance. Make an impact with Nivea Men Deep Impact Body Lotion. Try Nivea Men Deep Roll-On for 48-hour antibacterial sweat protection.
New beginnings are always colorful. When we celebrate the start of life's journey, we marry in colors. With our proudly Nigerian Dulux paints, now available in any color. Express your world however you want it. Visit a Dulux Color Center to get any color instantly. Dulux, let's color.
Repair and recover with Astamin, a blend of amino acids and multivitamins.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
You dey scatter body, but your face no dey show. I hear you now, Bella. Ekuisha. Anywhere you enter, I know what you. Your one of the invisible. Ekuisha. Everybody key on my luabi. Nothing good for you.
Welcome back. If this has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Labour Party and its presidential candidate Peter Obi backs People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar in requesting for live transmission of the proceedings of the Presidential Election Tribunal. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives Ahmed Wase and other aggrieved members of the All Progressives Congress reject party zoning of Speakership of the House to the Northwest. President Muhammadu Buhari to spend another week in London following his dentist's advice, while President-elect Bola Tinubu leaves for Europe to fine-tune his transition plans. And Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan appears before a judge a day after his arrest on corruption charges sparked widespread protests. And former Minister of Power, Mr. Saleh Maman, has been arrested and detained by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, in connection with an alleged 22 billion naira fraud. Mr. Maman, who was a minister under President Muhammadu Buhari from 2019 to 2021, was arrested in the early hours of Wednesday and is being detained at the headquarters of the Anti-Graft Agency in Abuja. EFCC sources said the arrest is connected to investigations into alleged corruption in the execution of some power projects. He is accused of conspiring with staff of the ministry in charge of the accounts of the Zungeru and Mambila hydroelectric power projects to divert 22 billion naira and share among themselves. The investigations uncovered properties in Nigeria and overseas allegedly linked to the suspects, while millions of naira and dollars have reportedly been recovered. We're back in the courtrooms. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has given an order of perpetual injunction restraining the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, from imposing fines on broadcast stations in the country. The judge also set aside the 500,000 naira fines imposed on each of the 45 broadcast stations on the 1st of March 2019. Delivering the judgment, Justice Omotosho described the NBC's act as ultra-virus, holding that the NBC, not being a court of law, had no power to impose sanctions as punishment on broadcast stations. He further said that the NBC Code, which gives the Commission the power to do so, is in conflict with Section 6 of the Constitution that vests judicial power in the court of law. According to him, the Commission did not comply with the law when it sat as a complainant, and at the same time, the court and the judge on its own matter. Justice Omotosho posits that what the doctrine sought to achieve was to prevent tyranny by concentrating too much powers in one organ. Meanwhile, outside our shores, Britain's highest court today ruled that it is too late for people in the Niger Delta region to launch pollution claims against energy giant Shell after a huge oil spill more than a decade ago. The claimants had sought to overturn rulings from two lower courts, arguing that the oil spill constituted a continuing nuisance, a legal definition to which the deadline would not apply. The Supreme Court, however, disagreed and declared that the leak was a one-off event or an isolated escape in a judgment that does not affect a separate legal action against Shell over other spillages. Judge Andrew Burrows rejected the claimant's argument that there is a continuing nuisance because of the assumed fact of oil still present on their land and has not been removed or cleaned up. We head to our Abuja studios for more stories, and Terry is standing by. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Millicent. Our Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State has condoled with the people of Dendiji village in Shagari local government area of the state, where 15 children lost their lives in a boat mishap. The governor, who commiserated with parents and relatives of the victims, also sympathized with survivors of the sad incident. Governor Tambuwal regretted the inability of the local council to provide the community with an engine boat and other equipment.
It's indeed unfortunate. From the briefing by the chairman of council, this community has not benefited from the boats that we bought, modern boats, motorized boats that the administration, this administration bought and distributed to communities in this local government. It's unfortunate. Rest assured that before we leave, we are going to order for the procurement of another boat for this community so that we avoid such incidents here, as we have provided for other communities in this local government. I appeal that we should continue to utilize those boats and life jackets whenever we're in waterways, because it's one of the major ways of safety and guaranteeing safety whenever we're in traveling by water. So rest assured that this administration will ensure that we do that expeditiously.
A part of the Nigerian Air Force base along the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Road in Abuja was gutted by fire in the early hours of today. The incident involving a Jet A1 fuel dump located inside the base is said to have sparked panic in the area. Confirming the incident, the Director of Public Relations and Information of the Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Ayodele Famuyiwa, said the fire outbreak was reported at about 8 in the morning. The NAF spokesman says no life was lost. He explains that the fire, which created an explosion from the fuel tanks, has since been put out by the combined efforts of fire services from the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory Administration. According to Air Commodore Famuyiwa, investigation has been instituted to unravel the root cause of the fire. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Oladaya Mao, has also visited the scene of the incident for an on-the-spot assessment of the situation. He was accompanied by top-ranking officers of the Nigerian Air Force. And no fewer than 381 Nigerians stranded in war-torn Sudan have arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, within the last 24 hours. The evacuees, who arrived in 3 separate batches between Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, include adults and infants. Our correspondent Victor Matthias reports.
The anxiety of many Nigerian families have been put to rest as their sons and daughters have returned from war-torn Sudan. 126 evacuees arrived aboard TACO Aviation around 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, May the 9th, followed by another 136 at about 11:04 p.m. the same day. While the third flight, which was initially thought to be carrying 136 evacuees, arrived around 9:30 a.m. with 128 evacuees on May the 10th. Upon arrival, the evacuees are subjected to a mandatory temperature check before being handed forms to fill. Some, however, require help to fill in the gaps, and some with writing. Then follows a welcome backpack and an address by the officials on ground who confirm that more efforts are underway to bring home more Nigerians.
It's a continuous exercise. It's exercise in progress. As of today, we got the 11th flight from combining both Egypt and Port Sudan. And our arrangement as I speak, TACO Airline is going to do 2 more flights with a bigger aircraft. We expect Air Peace and Asma to go. So we're expecting the next 24-36 hours, we should bring everybody back home.
After the address, the evacuees proceed for documentation by officials of the Nigeria Immigration Service, where some were processed using emergency travel certificates and others their international passports. While expressing gratitude to the federal government for a successful evacuation process, they narrate their ordeal in the northeast African country.
I was just sitting at home and I heard a bomb blast, and the place was actually close to my house. So we're in a lot of tension. Before we even got out of our apartment and out of our area, it was very, very tense. So at the end, we finally got out and we went to the University of Africa. That was where the embassy arranged the buses and take us to Port Sudan. Some went to Egypt and us, we went to Port Sudan, and now we're home.
Nothing to say is only thank God, Alhamdulillah, we are back, Nigerian safe.
According to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, a total of 1,994 Nigerians, comprising men, women and children, have so far been evacuated since the war broke out. TACO Aviation has made 7 trips with Nigerian carriers, Air Peace, Max Air and Asman Air, as well as the Air Force Charlie 130, completing the rest of the evacuation process. Meanwhile, the Joint Matriculation and Admissions Board, JAMB, says the necessary arrangements have been made for the student evacuees to complete their studies in Nigerian universities. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
We're still ahead on the news at 10. President Muhammadu Buhari seeks Senate approval to borrow $800 million from the World Bank for additional funding of the National Social Safety Net program. That's our business news. To join us again.
First Money is Nigeria's biggest and most preferred agent banking network. Thanks to First Money, millions of people are living their dreams. Meet some First Money agents who are driving this.
Started just with 100,000 naira, but the demand became so much, I had to employ others. It was like a dream come true.
I can confess to you that the monthly commission that I receive from First Money Agency, sometimes it overshoots what you receive from the petroleum, even petrol and gas.
Through First Money, over 1 million people across Nigeria have their financial services needs met daily. In all the accessible local government areas, you're bound to find First Money agents. With First Money, we're bringing financial inclusion and the many benefits that come with it. You first, First Bank.
To step out. Presenting the Good Night Power Shots. Spray 2 shots in each corner of the room.
It kills mosquitoes inside without driving family outside. Good night power shots. Spray inside, stay inside.
Progress. It is like the tireless rise of the sun, eager for day to break, so that it can take on the world. And that is why, when we travel beyond the land of our birth, we are not afraid to start afresh in search of our glory.
This is the sound of progress. Ebubedike, nwanne bụ nwanne, nwoke na-etiti ụmụ nwoke, ịlọghachila n'ebube. Enjoy the new taste of progress.
Some identities cannot be mistaken, like your business name and your account name. Your business name if it be shoe place, then the account now, color can remove. If I see him, I block him straight. You don't understand? Don't confuse your customers. Sign up for a MoneyPoint business account today and get a business account in your business name in minutes from your Sure banker. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Whatever it takes to make sure you have a business account opened in your business name, we'll do it as your Sure banker. Open a bank account in your business name with MoneyPoint.
There are those who come alive in the night. Where the fire burns brightest. In the dark, we see their energy and their freedom to create. The night is their playground. It belongs to the uncaged.
Looking fresh for your date? Get even fresher with Close Up. New Close Up Triple Fresh formula. It cleans deeply, fights 99% of bacteria, and cools intensely, keeping you protected and fresh.
Protected and fresh. Protected and fresh.
Let's take a picture.
Protected and fresh.
Still fresh, still protected.
Feeling cool and protected.
All day confidence to get close.
Oh yeah, take the close up shot. Close.
New Close Up Triple Fresh formula.
Welcome back to the news at 10. The Nigerian Navy says it requires more vessels to ensure adequate patrol of the Nigerian water space against piracy and oil theft. The Chief of Policy and Plans of the Nigerian Navy, Rear Admiral Saidu Garuba, stated this during a press conference held at the Naval Headquarters, Abuja, ahead of the 2023 Navy Presidential Fleet Review to be performed by President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday. He says 3 countries, namely Brazil, Spain and Ghana, will participate in the event, which will also feature discussions around the Gulf of Guinea.
The Presidential Fleet Review involves 16 Nigerian Navy warships, 3 by AW109E Nigerian Navy helicopters, and a mix of Nigerian Air Force aircraft during the maritime discourse, which will take place on Saturday, 18th. We hope to have heads of navies and Coast Guard from across the Gulf of Guinea. One of the deliverables from that engagement will be the formation of a task force. And with the powers that we shall have, I'm sure we'll bring every case of, well, most cases of piracy to an end in our waters. But to say we have, Nigerian Navy has about 49, 50 ships is enough to patrol our waters. No, it's not. It's not near enough. We need more, and we are grateful to Mr. President for these vessels that he has made available to us. But in essence, Nigerian Navy needs much, much more than that in order to maintain proper patrol over our waters.
And that's all from the nation's capital. Back to Lagos, where Millicent will continue the rest of the news.
Thank you, Terry. Ford Foundation, an international philanthropic organization, is asking for deliberate actions by cultural and religious leaders to check the spate of gender-based violence in the country. This, the organization says, is important in addition to making and enforcing laws and policies by political actors. The foundation's vice president, Mrs. Hilary Pennington, who addressed the media after a closed-door interaction with some religious and cultural leaders, commends the efforts made by the business community in stepping up the fight against the menace.
This is an issue that has been around as long as human history, right? And we have made shockingly little progress on it as a world. So I think the only thing to do is to keep trying. And there have to be laws, so that's a big, important win, the laws that have been put in place over these last decades. Enforcing those laws, having those laws is one thing, and enforcing them is another thing. And this is one of the reasons why we feel culture change is so important. In many, many places around the world, and I think here as well, if a woman, for example, is a victim of a domestic violence and she goes to the police, very, very often the police say, that's a domestic dispute, go back home. Again, it's not my job to police that in court. So I think slowly, those things are changing. And it is a reason why I think across every important segment of the society, the business community, families, churches, communities of faith, and political leaders, we have to do more. I think one very exciting trend is the fact that the business community is stepping up to this issue. They see that there are women who work in their companies who are struggling with abuse and violence at home, and many of them are figuring out how to route pay to a woman in a way that can be in her own name, help women find safe houses. So I think that is, and the same with religious and cultural institutions. And I think that those are all part of what it's going to take.
Now let's switch to business news. Here's Anne Nwaldo.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the Nigerian Senate to request approval to borrow the sum of $800 million from the World Bank. The president says this is to enable the federal government make available palliatives like the conditional cash transfer of money to over 10 million poor Nigerians to cushion the effects of the proposed removal of petroleum subsidy.
Additional financing of the National Social Safety Net Program scale-up by the National Assembly. It is with pleasure that I forward the above subject to you. Please note that the Federal Executive Council, FEC, approved an additional loan facility to the tune of USD 800 million to be secured from the World Bank for the National Social Safety Net Program, and the need to request for your consideration and approval to ensure early implementation. Copy of FEC extract attached. The Senate may wish to note that the program is intended to expand coverage of shock responsive safety net support among the poor and vulnerable Nigerians. This will assist them in coping with the costs of meeting basic needs.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has clarified some media reports suggesting that the bank verification number, the BVN, issued by the CBN in collaboration with the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System expires after a 10-year period. In a statement released today, the financial market regulator says that contrary to these claims, the BVN issued in the country has no expiry date. The CBN explains that once a customer's biometrics have been captured and enrolled in the database of NIBSS, the BVN remains for life. However, the CBN says the regulatory framework for the BVN is issued back in 2021 stipulates that customers can only change their records due to certain conditions spelled out in the document and after being cleared by relevant authorities. In the meantime, the Debt Management Office has opened its subscription offer for the month of May of the federal government of Nigeria's bond auction for 4 debt instruments, all pegged at 90 billion naira each. According to the DMO, the offers comprise 13.98% of FGN February 2028 and 12.50% of FGN April 2023 bond, both with a 10-year reopening, as well as 13% FGN Federal Government January 2024-2042, which carries a 20-year reopening, and 12.98% March 2050 paper, which has 30-year reopening. Now, the auction date for the bond will hold on May the 15th, while the settlement date is on May the 17th this year. The Nigeria Export Promotion Council is set to change the narrative as it concerns packaging of export produce from the country. The council believes that lack of proper packaging of goods and export from the country is the major reason they are all rejected. To this end, the council organized a training for female exporters focused on proper packaging of goods for international markets. The executive director of the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Ezra Yakusak, said this and some of the other interventions earmarked for women and are designed to help them grow their businesses. We're talking about businesses. Let's head to the equities market where more than 215 billion naira was lost to profit-taking today as the market halted the 4th-day winning streak, which began last week. Eni John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the bull slipped off the cliff and gave way to the bear. The slim win of Tuesday gave some indications that we're going to have a negative all-share today. And so we see the market in the red, 0.75% at 52,209.06. Thankfully, we still have the market cap at 28 trillion naira. The financial sector giants are still cruising and led trades today. Accessco, FBN Holding, and FCMB. But the banking counter shed more than 1%, and that's because of Zenith Bank. And that's why we see the Zenith Bank lost 10 kobo today to put the banking counter in the negative 1.22%. We'll still have positive for oil and gas, almost 1%, as well as consumer goods, more than 1%. Now, the major market mover for Wednesday was, however, BUA Cement. There you have it. BUA Cement traded in volume 1.25 million, but it lost 7 naira 85 kobo to close at 90 naira at the close of trade today. Wow. Well, is this the beginning of a bear run, or is it the beginning of another market cycle? We'll watch and we will report. That's the Stock Market Report. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Eni. Let's see how other major markets around the world closed at the close of trade today. For tonight, thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawodo. It's back to Millicent for the rest of News at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has pleaded not guilty to corruption charges a day after his arrest sparked nationwide protests. Police say 8 people died nationwide in the protests and about 1,000 have been arrested. Here's Simon Pusey with other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan is appearing before a judge a day after his arrest on corruption charges that sparked nationwide protests. Nearly 1,000 people have been arrested, police say, since Mr. Khan was held in Islamabad on charges which he denies. There is tight security at the police guest house where he is being detained, which is serving as a courtroom. The arrest dramatically escalated a political battle between Mr. Khan and Pakistan's powerful military. Conviction would disqualify him from standing in the next election. Law enforcement officials have said a gunman who killed 8 people at a Texas shopping mall last weekend appeared to have neo-Nazi beliefs, but targeted people at random. Police said the 33-year-old suspect appeared to have chosen his victims with no regard for their race or sex. He had not been in trouble with the law before Saturday's attack in the city of Allen. Investigators are reviewing his social media.
The big question that we're dealing with right now is what's his motive? Why did he do this? Well, the big question is we don't know. That's what the investigation is trying to find out. We do know that he had neo-Nazi ideation. He had patches, he had tattoos, even his signature, verified that. That's one thing we do know.
Ukraine armed forces have released videos showing multiple launch rocket systems firing near Bakhmut, with a commander shouting, "At the target, boys, fire." Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Tuesday Russian forces had failed to capture the eastern city of Bakhmut before the May the 9th Russian holiday. Fierce fighting in Bakhmut has lasted months, and Moscow sees capturing the city as a stepping stone to taking other cities in Ukraine's eastern industrial heartland. 2 visitors and 2 security guards have been killed in a gun attack near Africa's oldest synagogue on the Tunisian island of Djerba. The attack took place during an annual pilgrimage to the island, which attracts Jewish visitors from Europe and Israel. The guard reportedly shot dead his partner before opening fire on visitors and security forces near the synagogue before being killed himself. His motivation was not clear. One of the visitors killed is a French national. 4 other visitors and 5 members of the security forces were injured. It's been a rare day at the Vatican as 2 popes shared the limelight in St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis and His Holiness Pope Tawadros II of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Tawadros, dressed in black robes, was the guest of honour at Francis's general audience in a rainy St. Peter's Square. The 2 sat near each other and delivered a joint blessing at the end. Tawadros is at the Vatican to mark the 50th anniversary of the first meeting between a Roman Pope and a Coptic Pope, which took place between their respective predecessors in 1973. Protesters have interrupted the 63rd annual General Volkswagen meeting by throwing cake. Hans-Dieter Posch was making a speech at the meeting. Protesters with banners saying "End forced labour" and chanting "There's blood on dividend" were eventually led away by security. And the new all-electric powerboat race series, E1, says it has completed testing its innovative electric foiling race boat in northern Italy. The series, the first electric powerboating championship sanctioned by the Union Internationale Moton Nautique, is designed to create a new competitive on-water racing championship based on clean technologies. The carbon fibre Racebird will hit speeds of 50 knots, equivalent of 57.5 miles per hour. 10 teams will include 2 pilots, 1 male, 1 female, and will be owned by sports royalty, including tennis star Rafa Nadal and Red Bull's Sergio Perez. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. It's now time for sports news. Here's Kelly Egiga.
Thanks, Millicent. In the world of sports, the Golden Eaglets of Nigeria are ready for their crunch tie against Burkina Faso on Thursday in the quarterfinals of the Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations. Now, having played all their group games in Constantine, the Eaglets arrived in Algiers on Monday for the make-or-mark game that will see them pick a ticket to the World Cup with a victory. The Nduka Ogwade tutored boys won their opening game against Zambia and lost to Morocco in the second match, and then bounced back against South Africa to pick a ticket for the final 8. The match will be played 8 p.m. Nigerian time. In the UEFA Champions League, Inter Milan have got one foot in the final after an impressive 2-0 win over AC Milan in a pole-setting local derby in the last 4. Now, Inter have the upper hand ahead of next week's Tuesday second leg thanks to early strikes from Edin Dzeko and Erik Mkhitaryan. Dzeko rolled back the years to give Inter the lead 8 minutes into the game, while Mkhitaryan doubled the lead 3 minutes later. The winners of the tie will face holders Real Madrid or Manchester City at the June 10 showpiece in Istanbul, Turkey. Well, let's stay with European football as AS Roma coach Jose Mourinho has expressed admiration for Xabi Alonso's squad as the team prepares for the first leg of the Europa League semi-final against Bayer Leverkusen on Thursday night. Alonso played a pivotal role in Mourinho's success during their tenure at Real Madrid from 2010 to 2013. Together, they clinched prestigious titles such as La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Spanish Super Cup. Despite Roma reaching the semi-finals of a prominent European competition for the third consecutive season, Mourinho dismisses the notion that it puts pressure on the team. Well, in Rome and away from football, former world number 3 Stanislaus Wawrinka powered past Ilya Ivashka 6-2, 6-4 to book his place in the second round of the Italian Open. The 38-year-old took to the court after a 90-minute rain delay but proved too good for world number 73. He blasted 26 wins and converted 3 of his 6 breakpoint chances to set up a meeting with Grigor Dimitrov.
Gioco, partita incontro Wawrinka. 2 partite a 0, 6-2, 6-4, 6-2, 6-4.
And finally, in cycling, Australian Caden Groves won a ferocious sprint at the end of a rain-soaked and crash-filled stage 5 of the Giro d'Italia as Andres Lenoxod retained the overall lead and favorite Remco Evenepoel fell twice. Evenepoel's first crash occurred after a dog strayed on to the road, while the second happened with 3 kilometers to go, and Evenepoel was able to roll slowly to the line. The riders spent the majority of the 171 kilometers route in the rain and had to go cautiously on the descents.
Per Caden Groves.
And that's Sports News tonight. I am Kelly Egiga. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news.
Thanks, Kelly. And that must have been a painful fall. And the main news again. The Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, today demanded for live transmission of proceedings of the Presidential Election Tribunal, just like the People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. Also today, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Ahmed Wase, and other aggrieved members of the All Progressives Congress rejected the party's zoning of speakership of the House to the Northwest. We also told you that President Muhammadu Buhari is to spend another week in London following his dentist's advice, while President-elect Bola Tinubu has left for Europe to fine-tune his transition plans. And Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has appeared before a judge a day after his arrest on corruption charges sparked nationwide protests. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.